New comp, new layer, stroke on the layer with the pen tool. Boom, boom, boom. Kind of an, obviously a hand done shape. It's not mathematically perfect, which is great for the stroke tools. Now, you can use the generate effect of right on, and there's a ton that you can do here. Basically, you would take your path, right, and then you could paste it into the brush position. So the mask path, paste it into the brush position, and you could have, let's just turn the paths off for a moment so we can see what's happening. So you can have this, we can turn up the size, and boom, that's one way to draw on a stroke, which is cool, fast, efficient, effective. Don't necessarily have to paste it from Illustrator. So this is a way where you could do kind of an effect like this. Now there's other effects that utilize paths. One of them is called Vegas. So if you apply Vegas, you can tell it to look at a mask or a path, and basically what Vegas does is it allows you to have a number of segmentations. You can select how long they are, and then you can make a kind of light sign. Now, might be lame at first, but if you do something like this, where you bring it right down like that, you can do a tracer effect, right? Super easy tracer effect. Now you can get super crazy with it and be like, oh my god, hold on. I'm gonna make the sickest Tron intro of all time. Right? And then you got your glow going, and you turn up the intensity a lot. Well, actually, this would need to be pre-comped first, and then the glow can be put on top of everything. OMG. Right? So, cool. And just kind of one basic thing to realize is that masks, there's so many times that they're used as a source, the basis for content creation. When you're dealing with typography and you're dealing with a stroke like this, let's just turn off Vegas for a moment. I could have, for instance, a piece of text. I think I've shown this before, but just to kind of a refresher. And I could say, After Effects, and if I had a stroke in here, I could come in, I could go to text, I could go to path options and say, hey, listen, look at that path. And then I could have the text above or below. I could have the margins shifting along, so this thing actually looks like it's crawling along that shape. There's a ton of stuff that you can do with paths. So this Vegas effect is just one of a complement that you have in here. But it's pretty cool. I mean, if you did do this animation like this, now you can imagine it might be simple here, but if you have hundreds of different objects, or maybe you have something more complex, it might not be lame like that. Maybe it's like a like maybe you do something like this. Oops. And this thing is now looking at mask 2. And let's get rid of mask 1. And we'll just do a new black background so it's easier to see what we've just created. And so there we go. Let's look at it. And so it's just a really fast way of creating something cool. Now, I've created a kind of tracer effect just by really simply editing Vegas. And although it looks flat in 2D, maybe I take this, tilt it in 3D space, and now this Vegas effect is going out in space. It's going beyond the camera, coming back at the camera, going beyond, coming back. That could be really, really cool, right? Now, if you turn a camera on and you had, let's say, depth of field, now that line as it's coming towards you is getting more and more blurred, and then as it moves away from you, it's becoming finer and finer and easier to see. There's a ton of like photographic techniques that you can use as well that would make a really cool effect. So this is Vegas and a stroke, which is cool. It's a starting place.
You can the thickness of the path or the line?
Yep. You can do that right here in width.
Oh, okay.
You can also set the hardness.
You can add like a mask and put some kind of bead in the back or other kind of animation, right?
Absolutely. We'll see. It's obviously, I mean, not obviously, but it's generating through this blend mode an over. So what it's saying right now is I'm going over the black, but you could tell it to stencil out the black. Black on black, obviously you don't see it. So I could have this effect generating a stencil, or I could just have it be transparent, and then it's creating an alpha channel, and then I can make that expose an image. So I could do a ton of stuff with this. You know, it's just the sky's the limit. And that's one of the coolest parts of any of these effects. You might start with a simple object like a stroke, but it eventually ends up like this, where you can just go right to town with it. There's a ton of stuff that you can use for it. Speaking of strokes, I want to go over the two different types of stroke segmentations and kind of like what they do and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead, have this blank layer here, get back to RGB mode. We're just going to draw out a stroke, with my pen tool. 1, 2, 3. And there's also an actual effect. Let's go up to Window and look for our effects, footage, I'm blind, effects and presets, and we'll look for stroke. And under the generate menu, there's a stroke. It's looking for mask 1. It's asking us what color we'd like to stroke mask 1 at. It's asking us how large we'd like that stroke to be, and if we want it to be on the original, which is with a black background, right? Another over-under operation. On transparent, on revealing the original image, right? Now here's the cool thing about using the actual stroke interface. We have a spacing thing, so we can turn it into dots. We also have a start and an end, right? So we could have this actually look, if it's a little bit thicker, like it's drawing a stroke on, right? So we could use stroke and not have to do the whole right-on thing just to get a right-on looking thing happening. Also remember, all this stuff's keyframeable. So I can go into my mask, and maybe at 0 seconds, the mask looks like this. Mask path, and then after 3 seconds, it looks like, oh, that's going to be really hard to grab. It looks like this. Great. And maybe it's 0 here, and as it's growing, it gets bigger. And this is what it would look like. Let's do that again. Cool. So it's drawing on and it's changing its shape. So super helpful when we also remember that it's generating for us if we're on transparent and alpha channel, right? So it can be used to expose stuff, it can be used to draw stuff on screen. It's another technique. Now here's something that's pretty cool. If I have multiple strokes happening, I can say all masks stroke sequentially. And it will do the first one, then it will do the second one, then it will do the third one, and it will do the fourth one. So, if you're a badass and you get all crazy with it, you can go into Illustrator and make something complex, like, for instance, the Rooms to Go ad that I showed, where it has a whole building and it's architecturally drawn. Awesome. You can use this technique. It's super heavy lifting capable, right? You can do the entire thing inside of this. What happens when you want to turn around the edge of this thing, though? New camera, and I'll just hit C and we'll start rotating, and we see nothing happens. Well, it's a flat 2D layer. Well, I'll turn it into 3D. Well, that loses some of its awesomeness, right? It's still drawing on, but it looks like a flat postcard. Not helpful. So, there's another tool out there, and we're just going to delete the strokes for now, and we're going to add a Trapcode plugin. Now, this is a third-party plugin called 3D Stroke. Let's go ahead, get that familiar purple back in there. So now, with 3D Stroke, and I haven't turned on any of the stroke sequentially, I haven't done any of the draw and stuff in here yet, but the cool thing is, let's turn this layer off. So it's a 2D layer, but it's generating 3D data, and we'll just tie the camera to the comp camera, and once we've done that, you can see thickness, right? The thicker these lines are, the more that you're going to see this. The more that, let's go ahead, make a new layer in the background, boom. I'll make it like maybe a gray color. Let's just give it a little bit of color variation. So here's our strokes. And I can move the camera around, I can look down on them, I can look to the side. My strokes can accept lighting now. And they also can do the same effect where they can either all draw on at once, or let's zoom the camera back a little bit. Right? Bring that thickness down a little bit too. So they can all come on at once, or they can stroke sequentially, where I can just have each one come on at a predetermined amount of time. So it's a really cool way of utilizing some 3D looking stuff. And 3D Stroke is really great because I can go in 3D space and start to bend these elements. I can also use a cool tool in here called the repeater, which enables me to make duplicates. I can rotate these duplicates. I can turn them in space. You know, I can also come in and I can do a taper. So each of them kind of looks like hand-drawn. And this effect has been utilized a ton of times. Let's go and just try to see if we can find it. There you go. Good call. There you go. So you can utilize 3D Stroke in a more professional environment and create some really, really cool high dynamic looks. These strokes are flying in past the camera, they're writing something on screen, and they look really dynamic. Now that, I think, was done by a user, but it looks very close to what they're actually using. So hopefully that's pretty cool. And that's just one aspect of strokes. So you can stroke them on sequentially, you can use blending modes, right? Whoa. Sorry, that's the transfer mode. You can use the blending mode of the actual layer. And you can have them pick up colors from behind, right? So as they get up towards those grays, they get a little bit more deep. Come down here towards the white, they get a little bit more transparent. Cool?